Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Today, I'm excited. We're talking to MD and founder of Tend and Tonic. And what she does is she helps women bridge the gap between traditional medicine and holistic practices. It's going to be an interesting episode. Excited to be talking to Kimberly Faucher. Hey, Kimberly, you ready to rock?
I am.
Awesome. So we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
So I started my medical career in the Air Force, where I was giving my time in exchange for not spending a fortune getting educated, which allowed me to have the opportunity to choose what I wanted to do based on loving it, which is going to be a theme. After completing that commitment in the Air Force, I went to Seattle and I worked in a big multi-specialty corporation. And at some point when my daughter was 10, I decided I wanted to um, be a little bit closer to nature, spend more time with her, and be in a sunnier climate. So I moved or relocated from Seattle to California, and started my own practice. So this is the sort of entrepreneurial aspect of this, starting my own practice from the ground up in a town that had no gynecologist. And within 9 months, that practice was basically thriving, which is kind of unheard of. And that's, to me, that is a huge success. It's about being really uh, tuned into what I cared about and taking action, and then being, courageous to see it through the beginning parts of the story. So I feel good about having done that.
Awesome. Well, so now not everything is sunshine and roses though, because some things don't go as planned. And the
Ooh.
good note kind of comes with a bad note sometimes. So I'm
Yes.
wondering, can you share with us something that didn't go as planned and how you recovered?
Yeah, so the bad note happened simultaneously as a good note, which is why I was laughing. And the bad note is I moved in 2008. So I had mortgages in Seattle and mortgages in California and rental house mortgages and a brand new business. And in 2008, you couldn't sell anything, you couldn't refinance anything, there was no loans to be had. And I had like no money to get this business going. And it was very, very financially stressful. Um, and I sort of vowed in the midst of it that I would not be in this position when this happened again, because this was a cycle. I was old enough that I'd already seen a couple of these come and go. I still got, caught in it because that's the nature of us.
Yeah.
So I vowed that that was not going to happen again. But I built the practice and it got going, and it was really satisfying. And I did all the things. Um, and I was just about set to dial it back and maybe focus on something else, which was preparing myself for the third act of life, which was, establishing a passive income stream and being able to be in a different supporting role to my family. And guess what happened? COVID.
Uh,
So it's very clear that there's no amount of preparation that you can do for some of the things that happen. And the best you can do is sort of be positioned. And being positioned means looking at what are your values? How are you aligned? And what are you doing to be aligned with them? And are you making good decisions with your health and your wealth so you can withstand these things where you're being forced basically to pivot and you don't really have pivot in your plan?
yeah, that's a good call. And like you say, I mean, you can't possibly foresee anything that every single thing that can happen, right? But like you say, your health and your wealth, I suppose those are some things that you can have as buffers, right? I mean, if you have your health and you have something to fall back on, if something were to happen, well, then you're in better shape, right?
Yeah, definitely in COVID, that became very clear, like how vulnerable everybody was, and they're even more vulnerable because their personal economies were disrupted. And if you don't have your health, you pretty much aren't going to think about anything else. But if you have this feeling that you're pretty much okay, or you're okay enough, nothing keeps people up at night. No, nothing makes people fight with their family. Nobody feels as stressed as they do when their personal economy is capsizing. And
Yeah.
so what I got out of that experience was really that need to factor in people's personal economy to approaching their health, because it was not, you could not separate it. People would not come in because of their $20 copay, or they'd not come in because of their misgivings about being in public. And then the next thing that happens is you start to see the very clear adverse effects of just not having social network of any sort
Mm.
or a community, and how so then my next iteration of as a doctor in this little rural town, like what would I do different, was I think that I could figure out, or we should be maybe paying attention to, how can we address that? How can we become more resilient and in better position as people by creating circumstances and opportunities to build community, and build it now, just like we want to fix the roof while the sun is out.
Mm.
There might be
Hmm.
another rainy day ahead.
Yeah. Well, I remember getting some advice a long time ago from one of my mentors who said it's better to build a network before you need it. Right. And
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
kind of comes into play here, right?
Yeah, especially as you get a few more decades, you just don't want to be hitting the ground. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's hard to bounce back the further along you go.
Well, and I think, I mean, I think that so some of the I suppose silver lining of what happened with COVID is I think it did put their big spotlight on, number one, your own health and the people you have around you. Because like you say, I mean, imagine if somebody was, just flying high, making tons of money and whatever it is that they were doing, but then all of a sudden they couldn't make money in that thing that they were doing anymore. You know,
Exactly.
if they were sacrificing their health in order to make that money, well, now all of a sudden they can't make the money anymore and their health is poor. Now what?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, right. And they
On the other
possibly
hand,
have no experience navigating healthcare either, because they've just been not needing it or
yeah,
ignoring it.
probably
And
not.
then this,
Yeah, just ignoring it. Maybe they need it the whole time, but they just don't want to take the time to, focus on that or eat better or whatever it happens to be. But I think that what we did learn as well is that there were probably a number of individuals that maybe they weren't super rich or whatever it was, but they were happy with what they were doing and they were taking care of themselves. So then when all this happened and they lost their ability to make whatever money they were making and whatever they were doing at that particular time, they were probably more able to shift into something else because they were healthy, right? They were feeling good and they could, you know, have the mental stamina to pivot, right?
yeah, I think that people who are overall more grounded, and maybe more focused on their health in general, were able to find their way in and keep being seen. And other people who were not, did tend to like shell up a little bit at home.
Mm.
And there are anecdotes in my community of people who they did have a devastating medical event occur. It didn't get attended to. The system, the hospital was making it even harder than it already is to navigate healthcare. And so their condition in that 2 year or whatever time did become untreatable, basically. And
Yeah.
that's a sad, really sad circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, not all things can be fixed with a healthy lifestyle, I'm sure. But I bet you a lot could, right?
Yeah, that's like positioning, foundational. You're going to be better off if you've uh, stuck with the fundamentals, the
Mhm.
sleep, the exercise, the nutrition,
Yeah.
etc.
So let's talk about practices then. And I mean,
All
we're
right.
talking about, let's talk about business, but what I've found is very interesting is that when we talk about this practice makes perfect category in the Rockstar formula, oftentimes it brings up a lot of these, just general holistic practices of, routines and rituals that they do to keep themselves, alert and all that stuff. Like, is that kind of the things you want to talk about? Or, I mean, from in your line of work, practice means something totally different, or does it mean something totally different?
Yeah. Yeah. So practice makes perfect does apply to medicine because that's what we call it as a practice. And
Yeah.
part of it is we're getting better and better and better. It's like at first we learn a lot of facts, but we get better at the interpersonal relation part, and we get better at crystallizing the knowledge that we've gained over time, seeing how something we did worked or didn't work or what the difference was. And there's also this, you figure out that if just knowing the information was enough, we would all, this is a very common cliche, we would all have $1 million in six-pack abs, right? And so there's the how to help people effectuate the thing. And so most of my practice now is really those two bookends. So there's the ABCs, being sort of aware, and then there's the sort of basic building blocks, and then there's getting committed and getting it done. And I help people like figure out what do they really care about, what are they trying to accomplish, so that we can choose the right tactics or tools. And then but then it's this part where you commit to doing something and you're clear exactly what it is you need to do, and then you have somebody's coaching you and keeping you accountable, and that's the part where practice makes perfect. So there's lots of books people like to refer to about how to start and maintain, habit. And like for me, I'm also have like a time sensitivity to things. Like I don't want to go down some dubious rabbit hole of this will help you, or this is going to magically do this, or all you need is this one thing. It's like or you need to spend 5 hours every day doing it, or you're wasting your time. I want to know what is the minimum effective dose of something, because I can only spend so much time at it. And I don't want to be spending time at anything if it's not going to work.
Mm.
Where it's like, so exercise is a good example. It's sometimes hard to get that habit for people. And so you break it down, you make it small, you figure out what their barriers are. And some people love it. They just like, they can't imagine a day without exercising at least an hour, and they're going to resent it if they can't. And others, it's like pulling teeth. And
Yeah.
those are the people you have to figure out what exactly do they need to do, and overcome every sort of internal and external barrier to getting it done. And I can understand that because I like to exercise, but have this time limit. And so that's where figuring out the minimum effective dose sometimes is helpful, so that we
Yeah.
can optimize.
Yeah, exactly. Because, yeah, I mean, and, it tends to be that if there's too much, we get overwhelmed as well. It's like, oh, I've got all these things wrong with me, and, I'm going to try to fix them all at the same time. But, it's the whole
Yeah,
multitasking thing, right? I don't know if multitasking is a thing. You can only do one thing at a time. You can only
100%.
focus on one thing at a time, even though we say that we're multitasking. Real, what we're doing is we're switching from one thing to another, and we're probably not being super effective at any of them. Whereas, like you
Exactly.
say, if you pick something and go with it, then you're probably better off, right?
Yes, exactly. They say 23 minutes. If somebody interrupts us right now, it's going to take us 23 minutes to actually get back into the groove. So in
Wow.
my practice, I actually do not have a receptionist. I have two doors between me and the person coming in, so I could barely hear it. I have no phone ringing, no fax ringing. It's like I'm just like there 100% with the person, which um that's actually one of my values, which I learned from another patient. She came in years ago, and she could see anybody she wanted because her husband was a fancy cardiologist where I worked. And there were some very popular people in my group, but she was seeing me while I was there. And it was the word she used to translate it is because she wanted somebody who was into her, which,
Wow.
that is like a slang word for, like nowadays, it's love. But my interpretation of that is, I mean, and I agree that is one of my values, is present, engaged, and encouraging. So like with my kid or with my pet or with the patients that I see, like they fully know that that's where I'm coming from. And so part of being fully present is not having those distractions, and they get their attention when they're with me. They know I'm not going to be paying too much attention to their email. Like, come in, let's sit down. I'm going to be present, engaged, and encouraging, and help you like do the same thing for your own life, get you present and engaged and self-encouraging. So ultimately they can become, sovereign over that same process. They're not depending on me like some deity or something.
Wow.
Anyway, that makes it fun because that is me practicing one of my values, and it's totally enhancing the practice and hopefully the care they get.
Wow. Cool. Well, that doesn't work so well as an acronym though, because now it's P, but
Wait, what was the acronym?
present, engaged, and encouraging
Oh,
is,
yeah.
uh,
Okay, so we'll have to fix that. We'll have to get another E. Yeah,
uh,
present, engaged, encouraging. Yeah,
hey,
true.
you know what? In marketing, sometimes being funny is actually what really works. So
Yeah,
maybe that would
yeah,
work as your.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously you've been working from home for a little while now. So tell me some hints that we can have from you that we can use to have a better home office, to have a better jam room.
So what I found was a good way to start figuring out like how to make something better is figure out what all my excuses are. And
Mm,
I'll go back to the exercise thing. So I have this house, it's large, but I have a lot of pets. And so the pets are coming and going, and there's a cat door in what is now my office. And there's a little bit cluttered. There's a cat box. So I had an exercise machine in another room. And I'm like, why don't I exercise? Why don't I go in the office? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it gets down to um, back to the interruptions, and not just the physical interruptions of cats and dogs coming, but the hair and the smell. And so I like the favorite thing in my office are the doors. So I have a door and it happens to be glass and I can see outside, but the door means that the cats are not coming in. I had to rearrange the cat door, rearrange the house, put all the exercise equipment in here with me in the office. And now it's clean, it smells good. I can control the temperature and I can control the incoming and the outbound activity. And so that gets back to this thing about being present and focused. And so I started with what is my excuse? It's dirty, it's smelly, it's busy. And then I eliminated them. And then it's like, oh, I love coming in here now. And now I have and so then the next thing was setting up visual cues. So I love coming in here, and then I have a visual cue. Here's my rowing machine reminding me that take a minute, take 5 minutes, get on that thing. And I have the visual cues of the books, which feel like friends. And I have the visual cue of the whatever it was I was working on yesterday, I'll leave it out for the next day to have the visual cue. Okay, here's where I'm starting again.
I love
So
that.
those are some of the tricks that I feel have helped.
I love that. And that is one of the biggest challenges I've always found about working from home is the interruptions. And because I mean there's lots of distractions in your home. It's where everything is. So,
Yeah.
having a way to kind of like create that barrier around and make sure that when you're in this space, you're working, right? Is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to iterate. I think you have to, like, I know some people say, well, I'm going to have everything I need in there. I'm going to bring all my food and I'm going to have the
Mm,
coffee pot. But others, that might not be the best idea because then you've just brought all the potential interruptions into your space. So, there's a little bit of reflection required. Take an action and then reflect, because
yeah.
that's where the real learning is. And you're trying to learn yourself and optimize for whatever work it is you're trying to do. If getting up and walking 50 feet to the kitchen is worse than having the coffee pot in the end, then yeah, have the coffee pot in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you just said about, getting like just looking for your excuses too. Because I think that that's probably good. I mean, if you find that you're wasting time now on the thing that you're supposed to be, more efficient, well, then obviously that's now your new excuse. So get rid of it, right?
Yeah. Here's the other thing about excuses I noticed is you and I've been talking because you're a website creator, and um I will sit down to do a little bit of work on something like that that's several standard deviations outside of my wheelhouse. And I will feel afraid, like I know I can't really do it, or this is going to take so many hours. And why do I think I should do it myself? Oh, because I feel like I should get better at it. And it is that exact sensation of being afraid and being incapable that I will find myself going and looking for an excuse. So sometimes your
Mm,
excuses are just in a signal, which is how I like to sort of not criticize myself or not criticize the patients. If they come in and they say, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I did, or this is how it happened. It's like, okay, that is a signal. Let's just listen to the signal and try to see what is it telling us, which is so much less critical and toxic. And, we already fight a lot with our negative self-talk, and just reframing that your body is trying to help you, or your mind is trying to help you, or your patterns are a signal of opportunity for maybe a little bit of an adjustment.
wow.
Be friendly.
Yeah, well, and it's fairly deep too, because it's one of those things where it's a circular catch 22 where you're thinking, you're convincing yourself that you need to do something, but you don't want to do it.
Right,
So
right.
I guess it's more or less, almost I like what you say about just becoming aware of that, because now you can decide. Now you can decide, okay, well, is this something that I really need to learn? Because clearly I don't want to do it. Keep on making
Yeah,
excuses and moving somewhere else. And maybe
yeah.
it is something that someone else needs to do for me, or maybe I just need to buckle down and do it and then find out, right?
Or do it, or a third alternative, do it together. Like, don't try to figure it out by yourself. Get somebody to help you, because sometimes where you're afraid is a signal of exactly where you do need to go, like in
Mm,
your health. Like, you're afraid to look because you're afraid of what you'll see. It's like, well, get somebody's hand, and you
yeah.
don't have to do it alone. You just choose somebody to work with. um, that's its own job, of course, choosing somebody.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Like, and I think in the whole world of the self-employment, that's the thing. I mean, if we can surround ourselves with people that are very good at the things that we're not necessarily so good at, then everybody wins, right? Because I mean, I'm sure that, whatever it is that you do or whatever it is that they do, is complement to whatever you do. Like, so you can sort of almost barter with that, even though it might not necessarily be a barter. It could be an exchange of income, or who knows, but it could be a barter. I mean, you could end up building a team that helps each other with the things that you're not necessarily so good at, and you work together on all those things. Because I bet you there's something that you might be scared about building a website, and I'm not, but I'm probably scared of some things that you know how to do really well. So we can work together on that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing that's fun about entrepreneurs and solopreneurs is they, like, I identify as a solopreneur. I don't really want to have a whole team. So I don't want to
Mm,
hire staff to handle like all the bits and pieces of a business, but I know they need to be done. And I am going to try to learn what needs to be done, but I don't necessarily need to do it, because I'm trying to maintain like what's valuable to me,
yeah,
love and freedom and resilience, and keeping things a little bit simpler.
yeah,
So getting like taking your signal to figure out, where do I need to be better informed,
yeah,
better equipped, so that we can just operate better, but not necessarily ignore it, not necessarily take it all on yourself. Um,
yeah.
it's very similar to people coming in for medical help or coaching. It's like, I am not going to be the one who's going to choose what food to put in my mouth or not. I'm not going to be the one who does the sleep habits at the end. If we're talking about a hysterectomy, yes, I'm going to be the one doing the surgery, but I'm not. But there is a part where there's a shared decision making, and all of that stuff gets to be thought through. What is mine to do? What is yours to do? What can we do together? What can we get rid of? And
Yeah.
listening to the signals is your path to like where to pay attention, I think.
Yeah. I tend to gravitate towards that as well. And one of the reasons why I do gravitate towards having like subcontractors or contractors as opposed to employees is because, I think that when you hire a contractor, that person has some like skin in the game with their business. They are trying to be the best that they can be for their business, just like you're trying to be the best you can be for your business. Whereas I think that in a lot of circumstances, employees don't treat their jobs necessarily the same way as a contractor would treat their business. And, of course, there are some, exceptions to that rule. But
Yeah,
generally speaking, I think that when you're an employee of something, it's sort of like easier to just leave it at work and not necessarily, just do whatever you need to do. It's not my job, right? To to
yeah.
to get that paycheck, right?
I think that's the statistic is like 2/3 are disengaged and like 18% are actively disengaged, like trying to harpoon the business. So, big businesses are spending a lot of energy trying to align and motivate people. Whereas when
Mm,
you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, you don't have to be motivated because you're already impassioned to do what you're doing. Like I'm already impassioned to help people. If there's people who do not want to go down the path of trying to figure it all out themselves, which I wouldn't either, that then, we get to work together and I get to bring the momentum behind that, just like you with the websites. You're bringing all that background and um, they get what they need. You're happy to do what you're doing.
yeah. Yeah, it's that subject matter expert, right? That you're bringing on board. That they know that thing really well and they want to do the best they can do. And you're getting all of their experience doing that thing. And then, whether it be a long-term project or not, you don't even have to make that decision. You can hire them and
Right.
that because one of the things about I know I've heard people that actually do have employees who say, you need to figure out how to fire quickly, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Like a lot
super
of energy for
awkward.
that. Yeah. There's so much energy to managing the people. Whereas in our world, it's a little bit less about that. It's more about make sure that people who could benefit find you. And that's a different kind of issue where we sometimes don't know exactly what we need. Like somebody will
Mm,
say, you need SEO. No, you need an email. No, you need to do Facebook. Like you don't even know what you need sometimes.
mm,
And it's like for medicine, people will go online. Oh yeah, I read this, so that must be what I need. I
yeah.
wish I could lose weight, and you could find a bazillion things. It's like maybe we should get organized and think about the other, like all the modalities. Let me help you figure out where she goes so you don't waste time. Back to that, not wasting time, not wasting effort. It's like I don't want to waste time managing people's motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, great segue into your guest solo. So tell me, what's exciting in your business then?
So what all happened after COVID is I got this idea. It's like next time this is going to happen again. And I really would like to empower women to have them like have a community and know what they need to do and be able to share. So I have a program that I help people sort of identify this, what is their A and their B and their C, and then look at all the 8 main domains of health and see where are they at and where do they want to work on and help them break it down into small steps. And that is something I'm doing that I didn't used to do one-on-one with people. And but at the same time, I'm like going to have in the fall an in-person event where I'm going to bring subject matter experts on how to start a business, where to store your money, how to invest your money, health, and in the middle of the meetings be doing health. Like it's going to
Mm,
be out in this beautiful place near the wine country. And I'll have like a yoga teacher in between talking, doing some body movement. So while we're there, we're actually like sort of living the thing of how you do your work and you take care of yourself all in the same day and build the community. So getting around other people who are sort of on our path.
yeah. Well, I feel like so you're a quite unique when it comes to medical doctors because I don't know if there's a lot of them that sort of focus on the holistic path as well as the medical path too, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you're doing? You're sort of merging them, right?
Yeah, there's people who say that, and it's a little bit of a marketing gimmick, but I actually am trying to really do it. Like, what are all the things that a person needs and a part of it is dictated by them, but there's major categories and try to help them see where they're at and frame how they might figure out if they even know where they're at.
Mhm.
All of it's super interesting to me because, you know, there's the personal, there's sort of the community thing, and then there's a bigger, like where you fit into the universe. And
Yeah.
I'm of a certain age where it's like, there's also a part of like, do you feel at home where you are? Do you feel like you're being noticed and prioritized? And so a lot of times, one of the things is, at least women even need that. They even need to feel like they're seen and their issues are prioritized. It
Yeah.
matters. And that gets back to the P. Present,
Yeah.
engage, encouraging. Yeah. So
Yeah.
feel noticed, feel prioritized, and get them to like get concrete on that. It's easy to say big broad words like that, but to actually get concrete. And here's the 8 domains, and here's what you care about once I get to know you.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, and I think that a lot of people are always looking for like the quick fix, right? They're looking for just give me a pill. Just give me a pill that's going to fix all this stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, I think we're finally getting to a point where maybe the pill isn't, maybe there is no pill that'll fix everything for you all at once. And
Yeah.
there's probably not even a set of pills that will fix everything.
No,
There's
no.
something more to it, right?
Yeah, because it's not static. There's not like an everything that's ever done.
Hmm.
We're always moving, thank God. So what I try to focus on is um it's not just the where we're like our perceived goal. So say it's climbing a mountain, we want to like get to the top, get where that beautiful lake is, but it's like we have to prepare to do it. We have to have a guide, which could be a map or a person, but like it's nice if we sort of enjoy the process as we go. And so trying
Yeah.
to frame like, am I in shape and am I enjoying taking pictures as I go? And I saw a deer and it's fun to be pushing myself a little bit. This is hard, but not impossible. Like enjoying the process. And that's when you really start to understand all the domains that affect your health and you realize how many of the things you can change or impact and that it doesn't happen in a day and it's not supposed to, but you're getting a win every day because you're paying attention to whatever little thing you want to do that day, then every day becomes a win. And it's, you know, what much more within your control versus just the outcome. If
Yeah.
you're only at the outcome, that's kind of a bummer because one, it's far off. You maybe never get there.
Well, and I remember somebody once said too that what happens when you hit the goal? Like it's like it's not going to your life isn't going to be all of a sudden the best ever
Yeah.
once you hit that goal. Like there's always going to be something else. Like it's like the journey of or the excitement of going after the goal is what keeps you moving. Once you hit it,
Yes.
they have to set something else. So it's like it's one of those things where yeah, I mean if you don't even enjoy the process of getting to the goal and then finally when you get there, you're gonna probably be disappointed.
Or you have grown so much that your goal shifts. So some guru says, well, it's there's this gap in the gain. So we're, you know, that's Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. Gap in the
Okay.
gain. So we're always looking at the gap and we feel bad. But if we turn around and look at the steps we're
Ah,
making, we're good.
I love that.
Um, but there's also this idea of being grateful. We should be grateful. So I live in this house in California. I have this practice. That was my big goal. And I wanted to be closer to my daughter. She's growing up. Well, I like did all that. But does that mean I'm done? No, it's like because I've grown, now I want to do the next thing.
Yeah.
But part of it is to sit here and like, I'm so grateful I have this property and these horses, and it's this beautiful sunny day. And I really proud of how my daughter has turned out. And, you know, like being grateful, but not settling. I think that's I have to remember who I stole that from. I didn't steal it, but be ever grateful, never settle. You know, that's what he says. And that makes sense to me because we are growing, and if we weren't, that would be disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So now tell me how do we find out more about you then?
So I would love it if your audience uh, would just send me an email, drkim@tendandtonic.com. I have a free like PDF about how to start your morning. And then I have this book that I put a chapter in called
Awesome.
Transformational Journey. And there's a bunch of authors in there that are pretty famous, Dennis Waitley and Kyle Wilson. And, it talks about like some hard thing you went through and how you got to the other side, which like a chapter here and there might be super, like just the right thing at the right time for people. And
Mhm.
I'm happy to send them a free like email version of that book.
Awesome.
Um, so keep it
Awesome.
simple.
Cool.
Yeah.
So keep it simple. Yeah. So email Dr. Kim at tendandtonic.com. Was
Yeah. That's it.
awesome. Well,
And
thank you so much.
I'm on LinkedIn too. LinkedIn, Kimberly Faucher, MD, if people want to like DM me that way too. But I'm, as you could tell, all about really the conversation.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Dr. Kim.
Thank you. Good to see you.
To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment, and we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.